No, absolutely. So I got my invite to the Senior Bowl probably 2 weeks before our season was over. Signed with my agency a week after the season. Just went to Orlando, Florida to train with Coach Tom Shaw to get ready for, the Senior Bowl. And then I found out probably 2 weeks before I left for Florida that I got invited to the Combine, which was huge in itself. Because I never thought, playing high school football for 2 years and then coming to Idaho State, which no knocks against Idaho State, but we're FCS and
Absolutely.
we're not in Alabama or Florida, and so really thinking you're coming here that wouldn't be an option, but being able to compete at the Senior Bowl and at the Combine was crazy in itself, and training alongside Saquon Barkley, who would think that would happen, and I never thought I'd have his number and be cool with him, but
That's so nuts.
I know. So it's been a crazy ride so far, but you really get used to it on the daily level, because as soon as I graduated and kind of moved away from Pocatello, it was like I wasn't the Idaho State football player anymore. It was like I was kind of a professional already, and so that transition happened really fast, and it was actually really seamless, which I didn't think would happen at all. And it was great to have awesome guys from my agency to work with, and they kind of partnered us up, and we're all Pacific Northwest guys, so it was really nice to have people in the house who were in the same situation as myself, and so I think they just did a really great job of prepping us and just putting us in the right mindset that we are professionals now, and you're not college kids anymore, so you have to carry yourself a certain way and be able to get your point across without sounding like you're a frat kid. So.
Absolutely. And then Pro Day, how did it go for you?
It went really well, because I actually injured my pec a week before the Combine, so I wasn't able to bench there. So I would have been happy with anything like 25 reps, and I ended up getting 31, which is not too shabby. It's not my highest, but it's a lot better than I thought it was going to go.
Absolutely.
And then the position work was really easy. It's just the basic stuff that I already did at the Combine, and I already trained for 2.5 months. So it was really just get warmed up a little bit, and he's like, okay, we're going to start out with this drill. And I'd already done it 100 times, so
Right.
you just hop in and do it.
Are you overwhelmed at all? You said it was a seamless transition, but it happened all so quick. Is there any sense of overwhelm?
No, early on there definitely was, just because there's a lot of uncertainty about the whole process. But once you kind of get used to working in limbo and not knowing where you go next, and you just kind of embrace it, it's not really that bad. I do have a lot of free time right now, which has been really awesome. And outside of the Senior Bowl and the Combine, those 2 weeks, everything else has been, pretty much normal, because my last semester here, I only had 15 credits. They weren't super hard classes. I already finished my degree, so I was really just staying eligible. So it's been a lot like that, minus a few quizzes and tests here and there. So it's a lot of free time to do what I want. I just have to be in certain places at certain times. So, obviously in Orlando, I couldn't leave for the weekend, so I just had to be around the area that time. But other than that, I had all the free time in the world starting at 5 p.m. And it's been the same here, because outside of just staying in shape and not eating like a complete mongrel, I pretty much have the rest of the day to do with what I please, and it's been really nice. But it would be nice to get busy again coming up shortly here, because I think we only have 2.5 weeks until the draft, and then they'll ship me off to wherever. So
what is your agency, and how did you find them, or did they find you? How did that process work?
It's Rain Sports out of Seattle, and they work with Vita Vea, who's supposed to be the 10th pick overall or something like that. So he's definitely carrying more than his weight with the the agency. But no, they found me initially, and then they drove down from Seattle to Eugene to have a meeting with my mom and myself. And that was when really we got to know them, and it was like a 3-hour lunch meeting where we just sat down and talked about everything. And Colin and Cameron both came down, and they're kind of the backbone of that entire agency, and it's really just those two guys handling around 20 clients, and so really they have a lot of time for individual attention between the players, which is really nice for me, because I'd liked a little bit more of a hands-on approach. I didn't really want to be just put through the mill and another number to these guys, so that's been great with them, and they've set everything up from financial advisor to tax guys. They had that all planned out already, and it was, at the end of the day, it's up to us, but they made it a lot easier because they're guys that they trust and that they go through, so it's just another worry off my shoulders. So really I have to show up and play football, and all the off-field stuff is, all this stuff, it's just like having a conversation. It's not that hard.
Absolutely.
It's not the podium at the Combine, so.
it sounds like you trained in Orlando. You obviously played the Senior Bowl in Alabama and the Combine in Indianapolis. Where is this kind of taking you the last few months as far as all the places you've trained or played or whatever?
Well, it was 85 and sunny every day in Orlando, so that was nice change from Pocatello. Indianapolis was a little colder, but at the same time, like, we had a predetermined route where we could go places, and nobody was like let in that area. So the Senior Bowl was a little different because it was obviously like just a scout cesspool. I mean, they were everywhere. You couldn't walk 2 steps without having someone grab you and ask them for a few minutes. And that was crazy in itself because, like I said before, I've only had 2 interviews here at ISU. I'm not knocking anybody, but come on. So that was wild, though, because, I mean, we literally had a schedule that they knew, but if you had to be somewhere in 2 minutes, they'd be like, hey, do you have a few minutes right now? Just get a quick interview. It's like, I can't, because I got to walk for 3 minutes, so I'm already going to be late. So it was wild, for sure, but it was a good experience, and it's nice to feel wanted every once in a while.
That's awesome.
How much, you said you were in Eugene talking with your agency. How much time did you get to spend at home, and how often did you get to come back here?
Well, this was my first time back here since I graduated and left. I don't even remember when it was, but it was a while ago. But I went to Eugene for 2 weeks. I was in Seattle for like 4 days, and I got to train with Howard Mudd. I don't know if you're familiar with him, but he's considered like the offensive line guru. He coached for the Seahawks. He coached for the Cowboys when they had or not the Cowboys, excuse me, Peyton Manning, Colts. He coached for the Colts when they had a few Super Bowl runs and a win there. So, I mean, he's just super well-renowned among everybody, and everybody loves him. He's unconventional, and he's kind of goofy when you get to meet him, and you don't really know what vibe you're getting, but I mean, I think we had a really good relationship, and it was great to get coached by him because it correlated straight to the Senior Bowl because those were 2 coaches, the Broncos and the Houston Texans coaches were both coaches that he was really good friends with, and that kind of had his same mentality when it came to coaching football. So it was really nice to have a leg up there, and I think in the long run it helped me immensely. I don't remember what your question was, but I just kind of went off. So.
No, you're good.
Where's your mindset right now? I mean, how are you feeling personally through all this, the journey?
That was 3 different questions, but I'll address all of them. My mindset it's like, as I said before, I mean, I'm a professional now, and that's how I try to carry myself. I mean, I would have never worn a polo to this event, but here I am with the polo on now. So, no, I'm just kidding. But it's just been that I'm no longer a college kid. Like, I already have my degree. I've graduated. People always look at me now and they're like, "Oh, Sky made it" or whatever. But I haven't yet, and I feel like I haven't really done anything, even though I've done a lot of this cool stuff that a lot of people don't get the opportunity for. But I feel like it's just starting, and it's a journey. I mean, really, it's going to be just a daily grind, just like college was. And the difference is that these are going to be 30-year-old men, not kids playing a sport for tuition. It's going to be a little different, and they have families to feed too. And obviously, in the next few years, I'll be starting my own family and moving away and, doing what I have to do. So, yeah, that's my mindset is now. It's a profession, and it's my job day in and day out. So I can't just take a week off and go vacation. I have to at least get 3 or 4 workouts in that week. I'm not a kid anymore. I'm 22 now, and I had to grow up kind of quickly at Idaho State because I started at 17 and, played at University of Washington's brand new stadium then against Danny Shelton and Shaq Thompson. So, I mean, it was kind of been trial by fire since then, and really grew up here in the past 5 years and had a lot of difficult coaching and tough situations that I kind of had to mature myself through. And so I think that's helped me immensely to this point where now I'm this professional, not even that, but just kind of a role model. I mean, I do have to carry myself differently now and not be going out on the weekends, and not that I did that before, but it's just examples here.
I understand. That's awesome. Madison, everything.
What's your degree in?
Sociology, and I have my certificate in criminology.
Okay.
So law enforcement is what I've always been keen towards, and it's been a big part of my family. And my mom worked in the DEA for I don't even know how many years, but her ex-husband worked for the DEA for 30 plus years and just finally retired. And my grandpa was a detective finally. Yeah, he made that, and then he retired. And then both of his sons are SWAT and Springfield Police, so I mean it's kind of second nature, and I was able to not really grind as hard as all the other kids in the criminology department because it was kind of easy for me. And so yeah, that was school for me. It wasn't really a difficult time in my life. It was just read a little bit here and there, go to class, pay attention, and I mean tests have always been kind of my thing. So
when you go through, I mean, when you go to the Senior Bowl and the Combine and your pro day and you do all these workouts in front of scouts, I mean, do they give you any feedback or any sense of what you need to work on or where you might be drafted? I mean, do you have any idea on that stuff, or are you just kind of going through the motions and hoping for the best?
I did. In the agent process early on, I had a few individuals who were able to tell me some things that the scouts were saying, and at one point I got just a straight up report from one of the games, which is not secret information, but I mean, you're not going to go out of your way to ask, like, what do you guys think about me? Like, can I do anything better? But I mean, I already knew going into it what I needed to work on, and I had been told time and time again, and coaches, and like I already knew all that, and it was initially at first it was kind of nerve-wracking trying to perform at a certain level in front of all these people, but I mean at this point it's kind of just you show, like I showed up to pro day, you know, was having a good time, kind of joking around, and as soon as my turn it was just like you kind of just snap into it real quick and then you snap out of it, and it's like the Combine got you ready for that because you show up and all the cameras are on and it's dead quiet in the stadium and you have this huge, you know, 100,000 plus seat stadium, and you can hear people breathing in the stands, and like it's not something that you're mentally prepared for because you've never been on that stage. In the Senior Bowl, and the whole outside of the field was like too deep with reporters and cameras, and that's not something that you get at Idaho State. I mean, we have lovely exposure team who only interviewed me twice. Keep throwing that out there. But it's just it's a whole nother level, and it's at that point you're not really a person, you're just a player, and like everything they see you as is a player, and it's like what they're gonna get, and you're basically the business that you're trying to sell, and you're not just Skyler Phillips. You're this football player who has to minimize his injuries and talk about that for 5 hours at the Combine during medicals, and get poked and prodded and 3.5 hours of MRIs back to back, and these are all real things. Like that was a whole day.
What were some of the other workouts you did at pro day? I think you mentioned you did bench, but what were some of the other things you did?
I just did the position work for offensive line. So I didn't run my 40. I didn't do the jumps, obviously. I didn't do the L drill or the short shuttle because, I mean, I'm happy with all my times and measurements for that. And it was really just the offensive line drills in case they had anything else they wanted to see or felt like they needed from me, and which they did, which was good because it got Chase Collins a chance to kind of show what he had too. But it was really nothing major. It was just a mini Combine, and it was in about 15 minutes as opposed to 2 hours. So it was a little heavy breathing there. Just a little bit though.
Are you allowed to say how many team like scouts were there?
Officially, I don't know.
Oh, okay.
But
you don't know?
It was somewhere between the numbers of 2 and 4.
Oh, really? Oh, really?
Unofficially.
Mini, okay.
Off the record, yeah.
Shut up. I can't wait for it.
Do you get any sense of how the other guys, Chase and Mario and John, I mean, do you get any sense of how they did at the pro day?
Some people performed well, and some people, you know, kind of would have liked to do better than they did. You could definitely tell the pressure got to some people, even though there wasn't a ton of pressure. I think a lot of people build these events up in their head to the point where it's almost crippling, and you kind of just have to embrace the stage and just go for it. And I think that's what I'm really good at, is not getting overwhelmed in those things. And looking back at my time at Idaho State, all my best film was against our FBS opponents, where it was considered just a money game, and you know we were supposed to go out there and just get slaughtered. And I think that was when I kind of played my best football. And so a lot of guys don't have that, and that's what I feel like made the transition so easy for me. And that's why we see guys who are supposed to get 30 plus on the bench getting, you know, mid-20s, because they're just so in their own head that, you know, all the training goes out the window. And I can appreciate that, because I'll be honest, the Combine, I blacked out a few times, and my first 40 I had my wrong hand down on my stance. And so it's just, you know, you train for these things and it's become second nature, and you think you're gonna do so well, and then you get up there and it's dead quiet, and they don't tell you anything. They're just like, all right, you're up. And so then you go through your own routine, and That's an experience that a lot of guys haven't had the opportunity for, and I feel like that's what pro day really is for. It's more mental than physical because you train for these things for so long. It's really how you're going to respond mentally, not physically.
It's huge that you see that. So when you come here, you do the mini pro day with 4 scouts. Is this a cakewalk for you? Is this just second nature now because you've kind of done it all?
I mean, I still had to prep for it, and I'd still been training for it, since I got done with the combine. I did take about a week off, but ever since then, I've been, still lifting and running 4 or 5 days a week, trying to keep my core as tight as possible. I mean, I'm an offensive lineman. It's not going to look good, but it's there. So I wouldn't say it was second nature, but it was a lot easier to kind of get back into that mode where it was just time to get it done. And, you don't ask questions. You just show up and, all the joking kind of goes out the window, and you're there to perform and look as athletic as possible. And I mean, that's what we trained for so long at the facility. So I mean, it was somewhat second nature, but at the same time, you were still making cognitive choices to try to perform your best.
I have one more question about your timeline of things. So this is your first time back in Pokey since the end of football season, and then you went to Oregon for a little bit, right?
Yeah, and then at
kind
Seattle.
of enjoyed yourself, and then got into training mode in Orlando.
We went to Seattle for a few days between that to kind of start training with offensive line stuff. Then to Orlando, Senior Bowl, Orlando, Indianapolis, Eugene, here.
Wow. And the agency came along when? After football season?
Yeah, that was I think a week or two after season. So I was home, and they start talking to you like right as your junior season gets over. And I don't think it's an official rule anymore that you can't. I don't know if it's ever been, but it's sometimes frowned upon. It really depends on like who you're speaking with. But there was no official rule, but I kind of just wanted to play it safe. So I waited until probably after like the 3rd or 4th game of senior season to actually start like taking phone calls and talking to people. And that obviously puts a lot of pressure on the whole process too, because I mean, they're asking you a lot of personal questions, and it's really like they were warm-up interviews for the combine and for the Senior Bowl. And at the time, I didn't really realize it, but like everything you do now is a job interview. And so that was definitely nerve-wracking. But I was lucky to sign, with my agency early on, and I think they were my only in-person interview. And then I decided like 3 days afterwards that I would sign with them, and I was talking to 10 or 11 agents and just kind of, hey, sorry, but I chose and it's not you. So, but I mean, that's the thing. Like, they work for me, I don't work for them, and that's kind of how I had to put myself in that mindset so that I wasn't feeling bad that I wasn't going with these certain people, or feeling bad when they, threw some shade at me or whatever, because it is a business and they were trying to make some money, and that's exactly what I'm trying to do. But great guys, glad I got them, glad Mom liked them, and it's been smooth sailing ever since.
Do you plan on attending the draft, and do you have any idea where you might get picked?
Absolutely not. No, I'm not going to go sit for 3 days to hopefully have my name called on the 3rd day. Like, no, I'd rather be at home just hanging out. I'm probably not even going to watch it. I'll just have my phone with me. I'm sure my mom will watch it. I'm sure my family will tune in and they'll keep me posted. But I don't want all that stress to just sit there and be like, well, maybe I'll be the 120th pick, or maybe like I don't. No, either way. My agents keep telling me either way, if you get drafted or not, you're going to be on you're going to be on a team by the end of that day. And so either way, I'll be flown out a week or 2 after that to wherever, and everyone gets the same opportunity to make a team, and I'll just take my best shot.
When you say watch it at home, do you mean here or in Eugene?
In Eugene, no, absolutely. My time here is closing quickly.
Yeah.
Not that Pocatello isn't a great city, but
Yeah. Is it important that you get drafted, or does it matter one way or the other as long as you're on the team?
No, it doesn't matter to me. I didn't get recruited highly, and I didn't get a signing day, and I missed that because I got my offer pulled from Oregon State because they had their really great season, and I've told that story a million times, but I missed out on that, and so I don't really care. I had the same shot then to make a team, and I'm going to have another shot now, and I feel like I made the most of it here, and obviously have played well enough to get some accolades, 5 All-American teams, whatever. But yeah, no, I mean, I'll get a shot. I'll make the most of it. I'll be ready. I've been prepped. I'll continue to be prepped. As long as I learn my playbook and stay healthy, I'll be playing professional football.
And I actually didn't know that story. So you played in high school for 2 years, had an offer from Oregon State, and then it didn't work out?
Yeah, no, they had a great season. I was only a 3-star guy, kind of like an overnight, because I had the highest SPARQ score for guards at the time, which I think still stands. Like, you can go back and look on ESPN, and it's still me, but no big deal. Yeah, and so then I got an offer for Oregon State. I shut it down early, committed. I didn't know there was such thing as a hard and soft commit, so I just committed and stopped talking to people, just to show that I was like super into it, and that's the only place I wanted to go. They had their really good season, decided that they wanted higher level guys, is the official thing I was told, and they pulled my offer like a week or two before signing day. And at that point, it's really hard to get anybody on the phone because they're already trying to get guys to sign who they've been recruiting for months. So luckily I had a few individuals who were kind of in the recruiting business who put some phone calls out. Idaho State called me, and Coach Cooper offered me within 2 minutes of knowing him, which was a bit ridiculous, but no, it was good.